Sorry I couldn't be there, but you are in the capable hands of Miss Tan and Mr. Burton. I just wanted to make this quick screen recording to explain the three types of economies in further detail. So at this point, hopefully you have your graphic organizer in front of you as you're going to take notes on capitalism, communism, and the mixed economy. So we're just going to go into a little bit more detail than you saw in that first video. So as you can see with this first slide, so capitalism, free market economy, free enterprise, same. So an economic system that features private ownership. So private ownership just means you, me, groups of people, and they have the means of production, so they can own the factories, offices, shipping enterprise, and the market forces determine the way in which goods are produced and the means or how the income and profit are distributed. All of that together is capitalism. So again, I've used that example of the lemonade. One day you wake up, you decide you want to open up a lemonade stand. You're going to decide how you're going to get the lemons, how you're going to get the blender. You're going to decide how much you're going to sell it for, and that profit is yours. When we talk about capitalism, the actual word capital refers to the resources. So that could be the actual labor, the machinery, the land, the buildings, the money, in order for you to run your business. So in order to have the required capital for that lemonade stand, you might need a little bit of money to set up your stand. So you're going to go buy the wood. You're going to need a nice chair. You're going to need to figure out how you're going to get the juicer, and again, how you're going to get the actual lemon. So all of that put together is capital. The people that are running the system, the private owners, are referred to as capitalists, or you also hear the idea of being an entrepreneur, which means that you are going into business yourself. So it's these people that invest the money in exchange for the potential of profits in the future. In regards to when capitalism really started, there is no agreed upon date. Some people say that it really started with the age of exploration. So when the Europeans, for example, Christopher Columbus, started to explore the New World and commerce became worldwide. But many people would agree that it was during the boom of the Industrial Revolution. Even though working conditions were often difficult, dangerous, unhealthy, it led to the extreme explosion of ideas and wealth. Some of the core beliefs of capitalism or the free market is that humans are freely capable of running their own economic system, so they don't need government involvement, that working together we can decide how goods are produced, how services are provided, and that it also works out that we can figure out how to charge and how to then pay for those goods. Again, in a pure free market system, there is absolutely zero government involvement. As this was pointed out in the other video, though, this simply does not exist in the world. Another core idea of capitalism is that it offers individuals who are motivated the opportunity to improve their life through hard work and innovation. It's very much predicated on the survival of the fittest. Again, going back to lemonade, if you can't figure out a way to offer cheap and tasty lemonade, someone else will. And so you'll go out of business. So this is the constant thriving to be the best, or at least to make a product that you can use to gain money. Currently, capitalism is the most common system in the world. So if you look at many of those products, they are offered by these companies that span almost every continent at this point. One of the major disadvantages of communism, or sorry, capitalism, is the fact that while people can certainly thrive, what you see more and more often is a wealth disparity between those that are extremely rich and those that are extremely poor. It's not uncommon to learn of bankers and CEOs that are making millions upon millions of dollars, while even in industrialized developed countries, minimum wage makes it impossible in some ways for people just to have one job and survive. One of the main advantages is that people in a capitalist economy use their imaginations, they innovate by finding new ways to do old tasks, they discover new solutions to old problems, and develop products that can be used regularly, which is really the foundation of capitalism. Again, and that relies on human ingenuity. Communism is a bit tricky because, as you see, it's both a political and economic system in which the major productive resources in a society, such as mines, factories, farms, are owned by the public or the state, and wealth is divided among citizens equally according to individual need. This is very, very similar to the command economy, which also, again, decides what will be made and how it will be made. The person that was the most influential in developing the ideas of communism was the man on the left, the 19th century German revolutionary Karl Marx. And it was his ideas, which were established in Russia, China, and other countries in the 20th century, that communism really got its name. Like many 19th century reformers or philosophers, Karl Marx witnessed the profound changes in European society brought by the Industrial Revolution, the innovation of new technologies and the development of the factory system made both agriculture and industry more efficient, but this also began to start that huge wealth gap or disparity between the factory owners and those that were working. So you had people that were getting extremely rich off the labor of the working classes. One of the ideas that Marx and his colleague Engels came up with in the manifesto of the Communist Party is that history is a series of struggles between the economic classes. He believed that they were in the last stage of history in which the only way that the working class would be able to find itself with a healthy position in society was to overthrow those that were in charge. So at this point, it was the factory owners. And he believed that this would be a bloody revolution, but it would be necessary for the working classes to overthrow the factory owners. And when this happened, it would be that the working class would at first establish a small government in order to make sure that the goods and the capital were redistributed in society equally, and then eventually this small government would wither away and everyone would be equal. This, however, never actually happened in any society. So, as for what the core ideas are, communism is an extreme socialist system. So, we did learn about socialism last week when we talked about where socialism fits on that spectrum of democracy on the left. So communism, remember, is on the extreme left. So there's no private property, no government. People share goods. Workers do work based on their best ability. One of the major disadvantages is that communism never really worked out the way Marx had hoped. Instead of the revolution leading to the start of pure equality amongst the working class, the only way that this was ever able to really work was to keep very tight control using autocratic techniques. So the rise of strict governments, often offering their people little rights at all, in many ways gave communism the bad name. So this led to revolts and revolutions. So here you see some of history's most infamous communist leaders: Lenin, Stalin, Kim Jong il, Fidel Castro, to name a few. Some advantages, at least practiced by Russia, formerly known as the USSR, was that working together, they were able to make some very valuable scientific contributions. So USSR had the first artificial satellite and the first man and woman in space. The collapse of the USSR in the 1990s led to more democracy and more capitalism. Today, the only country that practices the old style Soviet communism is North Korea. The end of the Soviet Union also resulted in a steep decline in the influence of communist parties in democratic countries. The last economy that I'll go over is the mixed economy. And so we know that most countries in the world today, almost all, have mixed economies. So a mixed economic system allows for some private economic freedom and the use of capital, but allows for governments to be involved in economic activities in order to achieve their social aims. So an example of this is the French government, which controls the communications, transportation, and utilities industry. It tries to guide industries to take part in the overall plan. So some of the aspects that you'll see is that in a mixed economy, you might have the government subsidizing or paying for all of doctors, public housing, and education. One of the disadvantages from the perspective of the citizens is that they might have to pay high taxes in order to generate the income necessary to provide the social services that are required. One of the big advantages is the fact that there is more social equality. You see the wealth gap and disparity is far less. And while it is less, because it is practicing some capitalist ideas, people still feel motivated to innovate and feel motivated to create because they still do earn, even if they might be paying higher taxes. So I hope this provided you with some of the information, or almost all of the information needed to complete your chart. As far as I know, maybe the only section that you won't have filled in is origins for the mixed market. Don't worry about that. I'll see you when I get back. Have a great day.